Wonderful. So up next on stage, I'd like to welcome Runnr.
Hey guys, thanks for having us. My name's Andre, this is Graham, and we're the founders of Runnr.me. We're both hackers and athletes from Vancouver, British Columbia, and we want to talk to you today about the future of live human movement tracking. So where did the idea for Runnr.me come from? Graham and I both noticed that as athletes, we both got hurt a lot. In fact, I ended up having to take over 2 years off because of shin splint injuries and low back pain from running, and I'm only 23 years old. So we knew there was a pretty big problem here. We tried to peel back the layers and dig a little deeper, and we found out that in fact, the key to all of this is to improve performance and reduce injury in running. What we actually need to do is fix technique. So we need to fix your actual movement pattern, how you actually run. And it turns out that a lot of runners do a lot of things really wrong. So for instance, excessive heel striking, which is a pattern that's been promoted by really thick-soled running shoes for the last 40 years or so, has led to exactly the problems that I was describing to you guys that I had. So we talked to a lot of professional runners, recreational runners, coaches, physios, and we found out that this is actually a very large problem. So there are over 100 million runners worldwide, and about 80% of them are injured every year. And I know this number kind of floored me when I first discovered it. So that's 4 out of every 5 runners get hurt every season. So it's really a global problem. But this insight that we had that just monitoring is really hard is it's not necessarily that crazy. So why is it that people can't do this? And the truth is that as a species, we're really bad at self-monitoring. So when I'm really immersed in a movement, it's really hard for me without some sort of external cue, without someone saying, hey, you're landing on your heels too much, or hey, this isn't going to work out. It's hard for me to do that. So right now, people adjust to this in one of 2 ways. They either use video or they use coaches. Video is great, but it's not live. So you can't actually get feedback on the movement as you're doing it. And with coaches, they really are a great solution. But the problem is that having a coach with you 24/7 can be very, very expensive. And so Graham and I really weren't satisfied with any of the solutions that existed on the market, so we decided to build our own. Yep.
All right, so we needed a tool that was going to teach us how to move better and how to run better. And with running, it has to be mobile too, so you have to have it working with your phone. So what we did is we have something that tracks how you run, how you're moving in real time, and a lot of important parts of running too. So it tracks if you're landing hard or if you're landing soft. It tracks if you land on your heels or your toes. And on the inside of your foot or the outside of your foot. And if you land hard, you have a greater chance of injury, so it's better to land softer. If you land on your heels, that causes injury too. With some recent research, a lot of our big, thick running shoes that everyone likes and have been popular for the last 30 years, there's a new movement that's coming that really those might be causing injury, that people are landing on their heels hard. And then the rolling of the foot, obviously if you roll your foot, you can get ankle sprain injuries. And people who have good foot technique will take off and land, will take off their big toe. Another thing we measure is cadence, so the number of steps per minute. And most people would be better off to run shorter, quicker strides. It's more efficient. It would save you energy. So we have real-time measurement, and then we have aggregation over time. And then, so how does this work? Well, how this works is there's a sensor in my shoe right now that's talking to the computer, but the computer could be a smartphone. And then once we have it on a smartphone, we can say, is this technique proper or is it not proper? And if it's not proper, we can give feedback over your headphones to correct your technique. So we have a coach on your phone that corrects your technique. And beyond that, once we have it on your phone, we have it on the internet. So we have all this data aggregation, and we can recall data afterwards. And then social aspects as well. So you can compare to your friends, or what we think is really cool is you can compare your technique to people who run better than you. So you could say, I'm just starting out running now. What's my technique have to look like to run the Boston Marathon. And what do I have to change to do that? We can do that with this feedback. There's also other cool things that we can do in other movement applications, other human kinetics, and gaming too. So you could do like a DDR type thing where you're tapping your foot in different places, or do some mobile gaming through Pong. And we think this is really cool. We're really excited about it. I'm sure you are too. And what would you like to know more about it?
Thank you very much.
Didn't it?
That would have been a lot more impressive if it had actually shown up on the screen there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we seem to have had technical difficulties there. Let me move straight to the judges. I'm going to start with Bindi, seeing as you seem very keen with the microphone.
Have you guys patented this technology?
We filed a provisional in the United States. This one?
Oh, yeah.
This one going?
So you filed a provisional, but it's...
We filed a provisional, yeah. So we have a data filing, and we can follow on that in a year.
Okay, because one of my big concerns is what's going to stop the big players from doing this, given they already have shoes built with sensors, in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess I'm concerned about competition for you guys.
Yeah, and our intention is that this patent will give us protection against some of these big players, so that we can either be an acquisition target or be able to compete with them head-to-head with this IP.
Gary, will you be putting these sensors in your running shoes?
Yeah, with a stomach like I've got, unless you can give me belly wobble as well, I'm not so sure. Question: I mean, are you going to be able, as a small player, one of the big things here is price point. The market you're targeting is inherently the parent pays or the child saves, as well. And the one advantage the big players have got, not mentioning any names, but they can buy in huge volumes and get the manufacturing cost down. Are you going to be able to compete with that, as a manufacturing point of view?
Yeah, there is a volume problem with hardware manufacturing, and I think that also ties in with the IP as well. If we have a protectable idea, we can prevent other people from doing that. So our sensor is unique compared to the Nike Plus system or some other systems that are out there already, in that we are measuring actual movement and actual technique, which no one else is doing right now.
What is the price point going to be?
We haven't settled on that quite yet. It would be more expensive than, say, the Nike Plus because we have more functionality. Probably for a whole system somewhere in the $100 to $200 range.
And just before we go on, I'm just curious, is the sensor actually built into the shoe, or is it something that I add to my own shoe?
The one we have right now is our prototype is built into the shoe, so we've taken the insole out, done some redecorating with it, and it's in there now. Probably the intention would be to deliver...
Shoe hacks.
Pardon?
Shoe hacking.
Exactly, yeah. The intention would be to deliver insoles with sensors in them, but eventually we would hope to have integrated systems like the Nike Plus where the shoe is designed to fit the sensor in it.
Interesting. Toto?
So this is very interesting. I mean, obviously, you're kind of getting into and plugging into the whole quantified self movement, which is taking off in a big way. Depending which way you want to go, you're going to have to solve some really big problems. If you want to go with the shoe manufacturers, integrating into somebody's manufacturing process is not a simple thing. If you want to go kind of selling a device that adjusts to and plugs into a shoe, there are models already. I mean, BitFit has done a great job. In fact, you should talk to Eric. He's here from Pebble with a Pebble watch and see if you can integrate in a Pebble watch. But again, this is very early kind of days. And depending which path you want to go, you may face different hurdles. Which way you're leaning right now in terms of going to market? Direct to consumer through manufacturers?
Well, I think right now our plan is to do a direct to market. With some of these platforms now like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and online sales, you can get pre-orders and financing that way, and early establish the market that's there. And it doubles as an early investment mechanism as well, so we can both prove our market as well as have some funding from that way.
And I'm really curious, if you get all of that, what happens next? Like, what's the bigger picture?
Well, I think the sky's the limit. Like, these wearable sensors really could be the next mobile wave. Like, beyond the PC, beyond smartphones, if you can talk with your body without having to use a keyboard, there's a lot of power in that. And right now we're looking at movement, but there's a lot of other people who are looking at other things you can do with wearable sensors, and it's really the future.
And is this something where you think that you would be building applications, or would other developers build an ecosystem around what you're doing? I mean, how do you see that?
We had a few ideas for that, actually. One idea we had was to actually integrate, once we can do the, is this one not on? Once we can do the hardware for it, it would be really cool to actually build a platform out and have other people build apps almost on top of your body. You know, so if you have a wearable sensor platform, say you measure movement, you can measure various other health metrics, and then you create sort of an API for that data. There's some possibilities you can play with there.
So are you doing something with Runkeeper right now?
We're not right now, but it would make sense to tie into it. They've already have a big user base, and they tie in with the GPS unit in the iPhone already. So it would make sense to tie in with that for sure. We aren't right now. We're just fairly early, but it's on the horizon for sure.
Any last final questions or thoughts from the judges? No? Do you want to just quickly, briefly say where you're based and whether you're looking for funding and things like that?
Sure, yeah, we're based Vancouver, Canada, so we had a bit of a flight out here. And we're not looking for funding right now, but we're looking for engineering talent and funding in the future. So if you're interested, definitely come check us out.
That's great. So that was Runnr, everyone. Thank you very much.